Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be carving this little succulent on a coaster I prepared. So let's start by preparing our design. And what I did is I drew it in pencil and I was going to put it on my light pad and trace it. And I decided that I actually like the design flipped. So what I did, I took my soft pencil, this is a 5B, and I retraced all my lines. And now I'm just going to take a hard pencil and just quickly and lightly go over these lines to know where my lines are that I want to transfer to my little board. You can also use just a window, just hold it up against the window and you can see the lines as well. I just like using this light board. It was fairly cheap actually. It's a A4 size and I think it was about 10 euros. So mine I got at Vibra and it was $9.99 and it has 3 settings: light, medium and harsh. So that's all you need. Pretty perfect. It's just a hard acrylic, so try not to get it near any heat. I'm just going to finish tracing this side. So I'm just going to place my design on my little canvas, and in this case it's a coaster, and I'm going to look where the edges are. I'm just going to stick it down so it doesn't move. Just using a little bit of painter's tape. And now I'm just going to use a ballpoint pen and I'm just going to trace these lines. And that should transfer my design. Because the pressure pushes on the paper, the graphite that's on the other side, pushing on it, it will transfer it to the paint underneath. And the reason you use a soft pencil is because that graphite transfers easier. It's the same reason why a soft pencil will smudge when you put it on paper and you run your finger over it. So what I also sometimes do is, if I have something very intricate I don't feel like tracing twice, I just run the back of the pen over it like that. The pressure should also just transfer it. It's just using the tip will give you better lines, but this technique also works pretty well. It can save you a lot of time if you don't want to trace it or if you don't have an option to trace it. So let's see how the design is looking. Pretty good. Needs a little bit of cleaning up. So let's start by carving the outlines, and I'm just going to use a number 1 blade from Speeple. So this is the shape of the blade. So I'm just going to start with these lines. I'm going to take a little piece of paper to just put over my design so I don't smush it. The reason you start with the outlines is so you don't lose your design while you're working on it. And they don't need to be perfect. You can always go over them again. So you want to keep your blade at an angle, so you're always slightly pushing down. And I like to hold my finger here just to guide the blade. Just make sure you don't put it in front of your blade because you don't want to poke yourself. These blades are pretty sharp and you're pushing quite hard. So try and keep your fingers behind where you're working. So these outlines are now all done, so I don't have to take care of my hands being on top of it because I'm not going to be losing my design anymore. So I'm going to do this for all the lines on here and I'll catch you back when that's done. So if I have one of these curves at the end, I tend to carve from both sides. So just go on the one side. Turn and go on the other side and turn. So that way both ends meet and you get a nice connection. So I finished all the outlines and I decided that I think I want to keep these lines green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve in the direction the plant is growing. I'm just going slightly in a curve, not a lot, and because the base is wider than the top, I sometimes do a short little cut to make sure that the lines look nice and straight. And because I did these lines first, I have an area to stop. As you might notice, this one is layered a little different. I will link the video on how I did that on top in the eye somewhere here and below in the description, because it was an experiment that I didn't think worked, but I actually think it makes it a lot faster if it works out as good as this did. So I'm just going to clean this little area up like so, and then I'll just move to the second piece. So you go in and out. I'm holding the blade quite straight at the moment, but if you want to make it look a little bit different, you just can hold it on an angle. And I'm just going to continue doing the same thing over and over until I get all the parts of the plant carved out. And you can just use this technique on any design you like. This is what we got right now, and I'm just going to do that for all the leaves. So when doing the tips of these leaves, I will start on one side, then do the other, then go back. Just keep switching sides till you have enough to go straight. That way you get a nice area at the top. So I decided I don't like the green. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to carve these lines in a... So this is vertical, this is horizontal. So I'm just going to go straight across. So it will still reflect the light differently. And the second thing I'm going to go and do is deepen up the areas where leaves are behind each other. So this is in front of this. So this I carved a little bit deeper. The same here. This is in front of this side. So you can see this is higher than here. That way you get a little bit more of a 3D effect. So for the pot I want to try a different blade. So I put in a 3 by SD. And I'm just going to start by just carving. I don't really have an idea about how I want to make this design look. So maybe I want to give it like textured vibe. Something like this. The difference between the Speedball brand and the SD brand is the kind of material the blades are made of. This is a lot harder steel than this is, and that way this holds an edge way better than this. I did order some other blades from Speedball, but I'm still waiting for them to come in. And that's why they're a lot more expensive. Like a lot. I think about 10 times as expensive. But this is giving me a nice texture. So I think I'm just going to continue doing the same thing. And I might just end up deepening these lines just to get the separation going. Let's just finish the pot by carving lines. And I think I might use the dry brush technique on this one to let all these different textures stand out a little bit more. So just a little tip, when you get these little mistakes, those happen, make sure you always keep a little bit of your top coat if you have mixed your color. So in this case I did make a custom color, so I kept a little bit in my container. That way I can just paint over my little mistakes. All done. So I really think I'm going to dry brush this, and I might add some black shadows, but I want to dry brush this first. So let this dry. I think I'm going to make those areas black, but I'm going to let that dry, tape off the area, and then I'm going to dry brush this area, the pot. That will just give a nice texture to it. So I'm going to dry brush the pot area because I want to get the raised areas darkened up. And I'm just going to use my Oxide Black by Amsterdam, and I just put a little bit in the cap because you only need a tiny bit. And this is an old makeup brush, so you just put it on the brush, then you take it to a paper towel and get most off, and then just go over it lightly. As you can see, it's going to hit the high areas, and that's what's going to get dark. And I think that's going to be dark enough. Let's just take the tape off. And now I'm just going to take a little bit of the black and paint these areas black, like so. And then I'm going to make a wash of the black. Just gonna use the lid. Got some water here. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Oxide Black, put it on the lid, add water. You need a lot of water because you don't want it to be too dark. You can always test it on a piece of paper. You can see it's still quite dark. Just gonna take a tiny bit on my brush, and I'm going to paint in the areas where there should be shadow. And if you think it's too much, just take a paper towel and dab. But you just want to give a little bit more contrast to those areas to show that they are actually behind the others. And again, a little bit goes a very long way. You really don't need much. Just like so. And now it's time for the final reveal. I really love how this piece turned out. It has so many different textures. My favorite part must be the pot. In the end, I added a dark wash over the whole pot and then dry brushed it with some white. And I really love how the light changes the whole piece. It almost looks like two completely different pieces. So if you found this video helpful, please leave a like and comment down below on the video. It really supports my channel. And of course, if you're not subscribed, please join us. And for now, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye everyone!